Example 3, find the relative extrema of f of x equals x squared minus 4 to the 2/3 power. Alright, so I gave you a nice hint here. Always find the domain of the function first. So to find the domain, I might want to rewrite this function as a radical. So as a radical, this function would look like this. Okay, and this is a cube root, so anything under here could be positive or negative. So that means the domain of this function is going to be from negative infinity to positive infinity. So we got that taken care of. The next thing we have to do, we have to take the derivative. We have to find the critical numbers. So first we're going to take the derivative of the function. I'll take it in this form. This is going to be the chain rule. So it's going to be 2/3 x squared minus 4 to the negative 1/3 power times 2x. When I simplify this, I can take 2/3 times 2x and get 4/3 x times x squared minus 4 to the 1/3 power. And now, to find the critical numbers, I need to figure out what are the x values that would make this derivative equal to 0, and what are the x values where this derivative would not exist. So first of all, the x values where this derivative is equal to 0, the only case there would be when x equals 0. You could think of this function looking like this. 4x times 3 times x squared minus 4 to the 1/3 power. Make that exponent positive. And then if we so now to see where this derivative does not exist, we would figure out where this denominator would be equal to 0. And when x would be 2 or negative 2, that would make this 0. So when x is equal to 2 or when x is equal to negative 2. Hopefully that makes sense how we're finding all the critical numbers there. Now what we do, we take the domain, write it as a number line, which is from negative infinity to positive infinity. We plot the critical numbers, so negative 2, 0, and 2. And now we have these intervals. These intervals, we're going to be able to figure out each of these intervals, whether these intervals are increasing or decreasing. Okay? And we're going to do these test points. So the first test point, I'm going to do f prime of negative 3. Okay? Because that's a point that's in here. And all I have to do is figure out if it's positive, negative, or equal to 0. And so what I can do here, I can just look at this guy. Okay, if I plug in negative 3 here, this whole thing would be negative. if I plug in -3 here, this whole thing is going to be positive. So another way to think about this would be 4x all over 3 times x squared minus 4 to the 1/3 power. Okay, so plug in -3, numerator would be negative. Plug in -3, numerator would be positive. Negative divided by positive is a negative, so this is going to be less than 0. So that means this part of the function is going to be decreasing. Now let's try the next interval. Let's try f prime of -1. Numerator would be negative. Denominator this time, you would have 1 minus -4, should be -3. Cube rooted, still negative, times 3, still negative. So you've got a negative divided by a negative, which is a positive, so this is going to be increasing. Next interval, let's try when f prime of 1. Numerator would be positive, denominator would be negative. Overall, this is going to be less than 0, so this is going to be decreasing. Finally, let's try f prime of 3. Numerator would be positive, denominator would be positive, so this is going to be greater than 0, so this is going to be increasing. So it's decreasing, increasing, decreasing, increasing, which means at this point here, decreasing, increasing, this has got to be a relative min. This would have to be relative max, and this would have to be another relative min.